How good is this pec fly lateral raise attachment? Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Danny with DD Fitness, and today we're going to talk about the Sopanthfit, aka Cobantfit pec fly lateral raise attachment. Now, Sopanthfit is the same company as Cobantfit for the people who may be familiar with this particular attachment. It's the same company, they're just rebranding under a different name, but they still provide the same product and the same customer service. So today we're going to talk about the pec fly lateral raise attachment that they sell. Now, I believe this is the only attachment that this company only currently sells, but it's a really good lateral raise attachment. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in details. Now, I do want to disclose that this was given to me for review. So I want to make sure that I do give an honest review and give feedback both to the company and to the community. So that way, if you decide that you want to get this, you'll know by the information that I provide to you. So let's go ahead and deep dive into this and let's talk a little bit more about this product. Okay, so I do want to say that before I had this, I owned the Makolo lateral raise attachment. So they have a lot of similarities in how they're designed, but they do operate a little bit different in how the mechanics feel when you're doing the movements on them. For this particular attachment, there's a couple of things that I do like on this compared to the Makolo one. For one, I do like that the handles are one neural, even though they're a little bit passive. I still like that they offer a neural handle, and I also like that they also have a 2-angle position on here for you. So that way, when you are doing certain shoulder raises and you're doing like bent over flies, you have two different options to be able to hold on to it. So I really like that they do have that feature on there. Another thing that I really like about this is that the weight horns on here are actually metal. And a lot of these particular machines that are kind of within the budget range of what this is priced at, they kind of drop down in a little bit of the quality, and sometimes they have plastic weight horns. For the Sopanthfits, they actually put metal weight horns on it, and it really gives it a very nice, good aesthetic look to it. And it's one of the things that I really like about it. And the handles was the thing that actually appealed me to want to actually test it out to see how good this is compared to the Makolo one that I have. Now, this does operate on a link system, kind of similar to the way Makolo has theirs, but this one has a little bit different feel on how the mechanics work on it. They're not adjustable. It's just one link that connects the levers. The levers to the handles. But it works really good in how the mechanics feels and works on there. Also, a good thing that I like about it is that it has these little stoppers right here, so that way these the levers can't go past this point right here. And it's a good way to be able to protect your rack, so that way when you are able to put plates on there and you're fatigued to those last couple of reps, when you let go, it's not going to have any kind of bounce into your rack. So it's a little bit of a safety feature that they do have set on there. Another thing that I do like about this is it does have a little head support on here, so that way if you want to concentrate on the movements and you want to keep your body in a more stable position, you can just put your head against there, your chest, and then that just allow you to not move while you're doing those movements on there. A couple of other things that I do like is that, as I mentioned, this is a pec fly and a lateral raise attachment. So it does have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different hold positions that you can set for when you're doing pec flies or when you are doing lateral raises. And this is a really nice half circle pin. It doesn't have a full circle like some of the other machines that have them. From my experience, honestly, I've never felt the need to have a full circle on these. A lot of times, I mean, when you're using some of those other circles, unless you're using them in a different way, I don't know, it doesn't really, it's required just because these are specific to just lateral raises and pec flies. So it's going to give you the range that you need for those different ones. Now, I would imagine people who have like the full circles may be able to do some different type of mechanics on their bodies for those particular workouts. But for this, it's just for those two type of movements. And it really works well on that particular circle that it does have on there. Okay, so another couple of features that I really like about this lateral raise attachment, it does have a handle right here that you can hold on to, so that way when you're taking it on and off the rack, it's a lot easier to manage without having to grab it like on here that's movement or has movements. You can just grab onto that handle. This also does support 5/8 and 1-inch racks. The bolts that come on here are 5/8, so it does give you the option to be able to use it on both. There's a couple of things that I'm going to talk about that later on, but at the end of the day, for people who have any one of those two racks, will be able to use this lateral raise attachment on there. Also, it does come with a adjustable slider right here, so that way, if you do have, say for example, a metric rack or a standard rack, you're not going to have any problems using this on both of those particular racks, just because it does give you that slot. This does also support 2x2 racks, 2x3s, and of course 3x3s, just because it's a universal kit for the boats. So you're going to be able to use it for whichever racks that you have, and you're not going to be limited. And I think that's one of the good things about this, because they did try to make this to where it is as universal as possible, whereas some of the other equipment that comes out, for example, like the Mokolo, it only works on 1-inch rack. So it does limit it to that particular crowd of people. So it's good that this does give you those options. Okay, so I just went ahead and put some 25-pound plates on here, so that way I can just kind of show you how the mechanics works on here. Now, one of the good things about this is that this is actually kind of like a modification from the original generation when it came out. If you saw, or if you were one of the people that just so happened to have one of the first gens, one of the things they didn't have were brass bushings in here to allow for more smoother movements. So now this, throughout the entire setup, through all the holes, now have brass bushings on them. And it just allows for the movements to feel really smooth and very nice, and feel nice as you go up and down on them. And I did notice that it does have a very nice movement compared to the Mokolo one that doesn't really have those kind of bushings. So it does make a big difference on them. So as I mentioned, you can see these can't go any closer to the rack. And that's a good safety thing, just to protect your rack from any kind of damage. I know, like the Mokolo, I know I use them for example for a lot, because that's what I have in my gym. It doesn't have that safety measure right here. So sometimes when I'm fatigued on those last sets, the weights can kind of hit the rack. So I do like that as you get done with it, it's just gonna, you see it can just stop and it's gonna protect your rack. So it's very good that it has that space. And it's also started at a better leverage when you get started on those resistance curve, to get you a better start feel on there. So you can see that these things are just, very typical in how they operate like any other lateral raise machine. But the one thing that I do say is that I really like the way that these feel on my shoulders. In the settings that I have on it, it just gives a very good targeted feel to my shoulders. And the mechanics feel very smooth on there, and it's a very smooth motion going up and down on. So I'm actually really surprised at how good these feel because of those brass bushings in there to give it that very smooth feeling. Okay, so now as far as the resistance curve on here, for the lateral raises, it feels really good because, as I mentioned, you're already starting at a good angle. And from start to finish, the resistance, for the most part, feels consistent, and it does kind of drop off a little bit at the top. Now, the one thing that I have noticed, and I do have a scale that I'm going to put this on, it doesn't give you the full 25 pounds that's on there. It's about half because of the way the lever arms are set up on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. I got it turned on for 0. And we're gonna go ahead and swing this out. And we're right about 8 right here. And then once we get up to right here, we're about 13. And then once we're up here, we're still at 13, dropped off about 12, give or take. So it does give a normal curve resistance. So it's gonna be a little bit less on the low end. And then from any part from right here, gives you at least half of what the weights are on there. And then it starts to tether off a little bit at the top. So unfortunately, it doesn't give you the full 25, but anyone who uses any kind of machines that have levers, you're not gonna always get the full resistance out of it anyways. But the way that it feels, it just feels remarkably good. And that's just from a personal opinion of mine, because I like the way these feels compared to the way the Mokolos do. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch these out and put some 45s on here so that way we can do some pec flies because the curve feels a lot different for those compared to the lateral. Okay, so I got some 45s on here, And as I mentioned earlier, with these stoppers on here, I really like that I actually can put 45s on here. With the Macolos, the biggest that I could actually go is with 25s on there, because it didn't have enough space to be able to gap out for 45s. This allows me to be able to put 45s on it, and I really like that I have that option because I can just use less weights to get the same results. So for the pecs for me, I feel that I like to put it on the second from the top because it gets a better start on the resistance, and it actually gives me a little bit more resistance on the top part, because once you do the pecs on these, the resistance curve feels a lot different. So again, there's a little bit of a light part right here, and then it picks up right here. And then right about here is when it starts to tether off, and then it gets nice and light so you can get that nice tight squeeze at the end. So light right here, this is where your resistance is, and a little bit of start right there. Now the same thing for these, it's only going to be about half of the resistance. You're not going to get the full 45s on here. So let me go ahead and put the scale on there. Show you it's going to be about 25, I believe is what it was. So you do lose, again, about half of the weight because of the lever system is set up. Okay, so as I pull down on this, we're at about 11 right here. Then we get to about 25 right here, 22, 23. And then it starts to tether off. So again, you're not getting the whole amount with this particular style of setup that it has. But the mechanics on it just feels really good to go through it. So yes, I would have to put more weights on there to get more out of it, but it does feel really good in how the movements feel. And it doesn't feel like there's any stress on my shoulders or on my pecs when I do these movements on there. So I like the way that they really feel. Okay, so as I mentioned, this does support 5x8 and 1-inch racks, which I'm grateful that the company decided to do that. However, there's no kind of hardware to be able to adapt to a 5/8 to a 1-inch, because all they provide you with is a 5/8 bolt. So when you put it in your 1-inch, obviously there's going to be a lot of gap, and you just have to tighten it to the rack, and it's not going to really move that much. But to be honest, it's always good to have stuff nice and centered in the middle of the hose and have them secure, so that way when people are going heavier, there's no kind of movements or shaking on there. So one thing that would have been nice that Sopanthfit would have done is to provide a reducer, washer, bushing, whatever you want to call them, that would convert it from a 5/8 to a 1-inch. I use these for my pulley system that is a 3/4 inch, or sorry, 3/4 to a 1-inch reducer. So it just provides the spacing needed to keep the bolts in this middle of the hole. So I do use this on here, even though these are 5/8. There's still a little bit of a wobble, but when I tighten the bolt on it, it's nice and solid to the rack, and it doesn't shake, move in any kind of way. So it would have been nice to have these. And the reason why I would say to have these, because you would put them in each of the holes, and because you're tightening the bolt on there, you don't want to have that one adapter that's just one piece, because if you tighten it and it comes out on the other side, you can't tighten the bolt to the rack to make this nice and secure. So to have two of these to go into the hole and then put the bolt in and tighten, would just tighten everything together, and it'll keep it nice and secure from shaking. So as you can see, like right now, it shakes a little bit. And then once I put this on and tighten it, it's still a little bit of wobble, just because, as I mentioned, these are a 3/4 inch reducers instead of it being a 5/8. But once it's tight on there, now you can see it doesn't wiggle, and the whole rack moves in because it's nice and secured on there. Now, another thing that would have been nice is they do provide one of these type of tighteners, and then the second one that goes on the top is a bolt. It would have been nice to just have two of these, because for me, you're not going to want to tighten these to the rack unless there's very few people that's going to keep this in a permanent position. I'm always going to take this on and off, so it's just easier for me to just hand tighten these and take it off. So it would have been nice to actually have two of those on there, instead of just having one bolt to keep it secured and then the other one that's going to be moved. It would just make sense to have both of those be the same. Another thing that I wish that would have been nice is, even though it does have knurling on here, It's very passive. It would have been nice if it had a lot more grip to it, just to give a better feel to the hand being on there. So I would have liked that as well. Another thing that I kind of ran into, I didn't realize it was an issue until it was almost kind of dangerous, to be honest, is on where the link set connects to the lever arm, the bolt is just a regular bolt, and it wasn't a lock nut. I'm sorry, the nut was just a regular nut and wasn't a lock nut. So as I was going up and down with these, I noticed that the nut, no matter how much I tightened them, would still kind of come loose because it was working along the bushings in the washer. And so they would still kind of come loose. So what I did is I just so happened to have some lock nuts, and it was just for 12 millimeter bolts, I believe what it is. And I'm sorry, 5/8. And so I just used this. This is what they give me, or this is what they gave me. And so you can see this is the one that has the little blue thread to keep it nice and secured. And once I switched those out, I haven't had any issues, and it's been very secure. So Sopanthfit, just a little bit of feedback. When you do send these out in the future, use the lock nuts and send them with the lock nuts instead of just the regular nuts. So that way it will stay nice and secured on there. So another thing that would have been really good for this rack attachment, it doesn't have any UHMW lining on the back of this to protect your rack from this. So it's just going to be metal on metal contact. Now they do send a piece of felt that can be peeled off and put on the back of this. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like the way it looks. And it's not going to, it only covers just this part down to here. And then there's nothing right here. So it wouldn't really matter if you had UHMW on there because there would be enough to be able to secure that. But luckily for me, because I use those bushings that I mentioned earlier, or the reducers, whatever you want to call them, it actually will keep the back of this touching my rack because it's thick enough to keep it separated from it. And then as I tighten the bolts, because I do have one on here and I have one on the other side. So when they're all tightened down, there's a gap between this and the rack, and so it would never touch it. So if Sopanthfit was to send those reducers or adapters, it will also at the same time protect your rack, and you actually wouldn't even need any UHMW on there. However, as is, this does not have UHMW on there. It would have been great to actually have that on there. But again, if we just had those reducers like the one that I have, it will protect your rack. So another thing that you're going to have to kind of be cautious of if you do decide to get this is when I was using these, I noticed that for some reason the handles was kind of sticking and hitting the back part right here where the links are, and I couldn't figure out what it was. After I started realizing what it was, the pull pins can unscrew as you keep on pulling them out. And there's not a lot of space to where when this link hits that pin, so sometimes it can get stuck on there. So just be cautious if you have anything happen and you're using these and it doesn't feel like it's going up. You want to make sure that these pull pins are tightened all the way because, like I said, there's not a lot of space or leeway that's going to give you that extra cushioning if these start to screw loose because the pin's going to pull out, and then it's going to start hitting the back of this. And so just be cautious if that does happen. So as far as putting this together, it comes in one box, and the only thing that you're going to have to install are the handles and then the levers for the weight horns, and then the weight horns to be attached to the levers. And then that's all that's going to really be needed to install this. Now you will need a 17 millimeter socket, and for this it's going to actually be a 24 millimeter socket. Now they do provide you some tools and you can kind of get away with them, but I would recommend, if you have it, to make sure to use an actual wrench, because I was using this just to hand tighten it real quick, and it's pretty crappy, to be honest. So it bent when I just used it, so I just went ahead and just grabbed a regular wrench and just got it nice and tight. And then just make sure that all these other bolts are really tight on there as well. Like I said, I wish that they had provided lock nuts, but everything else works fine. There's no problems. The only thing was just back here. And worst case, if you don't have lock nuts, you can use some spring washers. The spring washers will also help keep those secure from coming loose as well. Outside that, this is a very solid piece of equipment. As far as the price, Sopanthfit has this showing on their website at $259.99. And I think that's a fair price for this. It's about the same price on average of a lot of the other pieces of equipment. This is definitely quality as far as I'm concerned, just because it's a very solid metal. It's just very heavy duty. The weight of it is about 45 pounds. And it does also give you these steel or metal weight horns, which I think is really good because it allows for more weight to be held on here. And as I mentioned earlier, this can support up to 330 pounds. So 115 pounds per side for this. And now, granted, you're not actually pulling the full amount because, as I mentioned earlier, you're only pulling about half of that. So even though you have about 115, the field weight is going to probably be a little bit less. But this isn't, in my opinion, something that's meant to be part of your actual strong part of the workouts. I look at these as finishers for like the pec flies. Now, these for shoulders is absolutely great because, as I mentioned earlier, the resistance, even though it's not going to be as much, you feel the resistance from a very good range of the resistance curve on it. And I love the way these mechanics feels on it because it just feels very smooth and it's very effective in how it moves on my shoulders without there being any kind of pain or stress on it. Sometimes I feel that on the Makolos just because of the way the mechanics are on it. So I really do feel like this is worth the money for $259. It's a very great piece. And you're getting 2 for 1 out of it because you are doing your pec flies along with lateral raises and whatever whatever workouts you can do. You can also do frontal raises. As I mentioned, you have the handles, so it gives you 2 different angles to be able to provide different type of workouts to your shoulders. And I really like that. It's not really anything that stands out, honestly, from the other machines. It's just another lateral raise machine, but it just works really good. And it's priced within the same range as some of the other ones within this. So whether or not it's something that I think that you have to get, it's just an accessory. I use it for what I like to use it for, with shoulders and front raises. And I really get a good workout out with it. So I think it feels really good. And I would recommend this to anybody who is looking for one. So for $259, you're getting a very good quality piece. The company has been very good and responsive. They respond to everything that I ask them. So they will get back to you if you have any questions, problems with it. And so I think that this would be something that would be good for people who are looking for it. So this is the Sopanthfit. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. It's just a weird name. Pec fly lateral raise. It's a great piece of a machine that can work on 5x8 racks in 1 inch. It's $259.99 on their website. You can go to Sopanthfit, SOPANTHAFIT.com. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering it. I'll put it down here somewhere so that way you can see it. But go to that website, check it out. I also will be doing some more videos on my workouts with these. If you like my content, follow me on YouTube at DD Fitness US. You can also follow me on Instagram, DD Fitness US as well, and on Facebook at the same one, DD Fitness US. So my name is Danny. You have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.